We have landed over 50 placements after close to 3 years in the game as music producers. Starting from 0 placements, not knowing how to get them, seeing everybody else succeed, to now negotiating deals over $5,000 for placements that we don't even try to get. By the end of this video, you'll understand the most important things that we've learned so far about how to land placements, get paid, and much more. We've landed songs with some of our favorite artists and have been forced to learn the business and how to get paid in 3 short years. You'll want to stick through this video. This will be very eye-opening. The first thing that everybody needs to kind of understand as a music producer is that placements are ultimately based on luck. They are never a sure thing. There's not a task you can do that once you finish that task guarantees a placement. And for that reason, it's not something that you want to chase and never something you want to rely on. And that's for landing them and getting paid, which is another mission on its own. Basing your entire routine and all your focus purely on getting placements is very risky. Of course, it's great when you have placements coming in. It's great to get these big payments coming through and all the rest of it. But keep in mind that it's one of those things where all of a sudden you could have a dry spell and now there's no placements coming through. As well as the fact that getting paid from a placement can take a couple of months to even a year to get paid from some of these songs. The best way to think of your placements are as bonuses. It's great when they come in, but you can't rely on these. There's many other things that your focus needs to be directed at as well. So instead of chasing and relying on the placements, rather attract the placements. And the best way to attract the placements is through having systems in place that are going to put your best foot forward for these placements to roll in. Here is a simple example of a type of system that someone might use in order for placements to come to them. Make 5 samples a week, send samples on 3 occasions throughout the week to your email list, to your producers, artists, whatever. Message 20 new people a week, new potential contacts, some networking, and post 7 bits of content, a piece of content a day, a story, a post. Maybe one of those bits of content is a sample pack on YouTube. If someone does this every week long enough and they continue to improve and they continue to get better connections and continue to progress, it's safe to say at some point they'll land some placement, hopefully within a few months of doing this. And figure out a system that works for you, because it might not be just samples. You might be making beats as well. The content you're posting might be a type beat channel that you're posting on every day or a few times a week. The main thing is you need actual tasks, actual tangible things that you can do and you know you have to do, that's putting your best efforts out there and giving you the highest possibility of attracting those placements. So look at your situation, the music you make, the time you have, and create a system that you can stick with. Follow it like a plan, stick to it, see how it goes for a while. You may need to adapt, but we did this for almost a year until we actually landed one of our first placements. So don't chase or rely on these placements, rather do things that attract them and treat them as bonuses as they are.
So when we were writing this video, we went into our Spotify playlist with every single song on Spotify that we know of, and as we were going through them, we realized that firstly, every single song except for maybe 3 or 4 was only us doing the sample, and then there are a few other ones where we did the whole beat. And on top of that, all those ones we've done the samples, we have sent them out on email, apart from maybe there were 3 or 4 where someone had found it from a sample pack. Doing this over a long period of time, which we have been doing for nearly 3 years now, just proves that you are going to just get placements. For us, samples have just changed the game. With a sample, you can send to so many different producers, even in different niches or genres of music. And you can have 5 different producers use the exact same sample and put it on their type beat channel or send it out to artists that they're in contact with. And then you can see how very quickly, over a long period of time of you sending the sample, maybe 100 or more people seeing it, 20 of them use it, 5 of them sent to somebody. Out of all of those things happening and doing that every day or every week, sending stuff out, you can see an artist is eventually going to record on one of those beats using our sample and then put it out there. Yes, with samples, you're going to be receiving less percentage on your royalties and just less money if you're getting a payment when it comes to getting paid for a placement. And this is because a sample is just a small part of the song. There's always going to be at least one other producer involved doing the beat, maybe even 2. And then if you're collaborating with other sample makers, you could easily just have 4 people on the beat just like that, meaning your cut's going to be a lot smaller. However, for us, especially in these first 3 years of making music, the pros definitely outweigh the cons of making and sending out samples due to the fact that a sample can be used by so many different people. As a sample maker, we've gained so many connections from just filling the gap of another producer who can't necessarily make samples. We send them our great music, they like it, and then it's a good value exchange for both of us. They can use our really good samples, and now our samples can get in front of new artists that this producer is sending out to. One thing to keep an eye on as a sample maker when sending out your samples, especially on email, is just just making sure the people you're sending to are actually opening and using your samples. As soon as people stop opening your samples, which we actually can see on Mailsuite, it's an extension and you can see if somebody's opened something, you've got a way higher chance of going into the spam for when you send samples to a new person. So we're always just going through the people we've sent samples to, who's opened it multiple times, and it just gives us a good guideline of who to send more samples to and who not to send more samples to. To sum it all up, there is so much leverage in samples. We would not have as many placements as we do without them. And really learning how to make good samples in the early years of our career making music has been probably the best thing we could have done. Looking into the future, we do really want to get more into drums and just the general creative process of making songs, so we can have more control over the final release and the final product that's put onto Spotify. As with our current placements, we really don't have any control after we've sent the sample out to them. Specializing in samples is a great way to get your foot in the door.
After getting over 50 placements, we've realized the vast majority of our placements are completely random, from random parts of the world, random individuals that a lot of the time we don't progress with, don't continue to make music with. Majority of the songs have been landed through, of course, sending emails to type beat channels and also putting our free sample packs on YouTube. Now, anyone can download the sample packs from YouTube, right? And anyone can stumble across a beat that's using our sample. And this is the reason that all our placements are completely random. And it's definitely not a bad thing. It's just more of an observation. Thinking long term, it's probably going to be better to lock in with a couple of producers and artists really closely and have placements with them over the next few albums and continue to work with them closer. With the state of a lot of our placements, it's not that. We're not complaining, of course. These still give you great opportunities to get paid from songs. Also, you can publish all these songs and start to build your publishing catalog. It's something that you need to be aware of if you're competing in this sample game. But I think it's very normal for the first few years of producers, especially sample makers. And it's something we didn't really think about and weren't expecting when we started, but that's how it's worked out. Having one close connection that you send music to, maybe no one else has the music, and this person's working with one artist or in one scene. This person loves your music and they use it a lot. This can be an extremely valuable connection, because let's say they're working with this bigger artist. Now you could potentially work on this biggest artist's next album, and then the album after that and the album after that, if you continue the connection with this person. That's kind of guaranteeing you somewhere and someone who always wants music from you, and it's giving you a bit more of stability there. With that, now you can send music consistently, knowing where it's heading and who it's actually for. So you could even work for a week just on that sound and forget about other things, because you know is a much higher chance of landing a placement through this person. And now as we've progressed, we've started to have those figures and relationships with people where we can see, oh yeah, this is more of a long-term thing. We might be working with this guy for 10 years. Somewhere in the middle is a great place to be, where you can put your music out there for free and get random placements from random parts of the world, but also have those close connections that you work with closely that give you a little bit more stability.
One thing that's become very apparent to us over the last 3 years of negotiating deals with all sorts of different labels and artist teams and all this stuff, you can usually get paid a whole lot more than you think you can, especially a lot more than the first offer that you'll get from the artist or the team. Now, this doesn't always mean you should try push the limits and see how much you really can get, as your reputation is always going to be on the line. A lot of the time, you're going to get manipulated, and the artist team, the label, whoever you're dealing with, is going to try and undermine you for the value you've provided to them. We've had multiple cases over the years where a label has offered us $150, no master, no publishing, for an exclusive sample. Like, what the fuck? It's honestly a joke when people do this kind of stuff. So don't always take the first offer personal just because they say $150 exclusive. It honestly just doesn't mean anything. We've quickly turned $150 exclusive, no master, no publishing royalties, to $2,000 with publishing in a matter of 3 emails back and forth.
If you want a 30-minute personalized breakdown of your career, socials, and your music from us, not holding back anything, being brutally honest, giving you instant changes that you can make right after the breakdown, check the link in the description for the roast and rebuild. The amount of producers out there that we look at on a day-to-day basis, and we can see these changes that they could make very quickly to put them in a much better position in the industry. Check that out in the link in the description.
And the decision for how far to push this really comes down to what Marcus was talking about before. The fact that lots of the placements you get is just going to be a one-off thing, and you're never going to deal with them again. How far we push the limits and how far we try push how much we want to get paid from a placement we get depends on, one, how they treat us first. If people come to us straight with disrespect and they just try lowball us straight away, $100 exclusive sample, straight away we just know these aren't going to be people we want to be working with long term. When we're negotiating, all we're keeping in mind is we still have a reputation to uphold, but we're probably not going to be working with these guys again. So in the most respectful and professional way possible, let's get as much as we can. It's going to be a little bit different if they come to us with a respectable offer. They're very genuine and professional with how they approach us. We're not going to be pushing the limits as high with people like this. And then even on the other side, with an artist you would want to grow with in the future and they like your stuff and you just know you're going to be working a lot in the future, sometimes you're not even going to be taking an upfront payment. Sometimes you'll just be taking a cut of the royalties, master and publishing. You're not getting paid up front, and then you've got a good working relationship moving forward into the future. You really do want to pick your battles and be careful where you're expending your energy and really think about whether it's a good fight to pick or not. Even if you haven't had placements before, we're just going to share with you a rule of thumb we have for figures for an upfront fee, and these figures have grown as our music's gotten better, as our social proof and placements have just leveled up. So currently, $3,000 for an exclusive sample is pretty much the bare minimum we'd sell something for exclusively, because obviously that means nobody else can use it. We don't say no if somebody says $2,500, but it really does depend on the other factors, such as, are we getting master royalties, are we getting publishing, and then also we're to take into account the projected performance of the song. There's so many things that comes into it that you sort of learn as you go. We made a full video going into the business side and how to get paid for your placements, and off the back of that, here's 2 things to keep in mind when trying to negotiate a deal for a placement you've landed. Firstly, if you're negotiating a deal for a placement with an artist who's signed to a label, the label will have allocated some money to put towards the artist and whatever song or album they're working on. In our experience dealing with labels, you can usually be expecting a few $1,000s up front to split with the rest of the producers, but keep in mind this is usually at the expense of not receiving any master royalties. Don't settle for a stupid offer, stand your ground, know your value, and really just fight to get at least a couple thousand, especially if you're not getting offered any master at all. You're going to get placements as well with independent artists with no label backing, no budget behind them, and in these cases you're almost never going to get an upfront payment. But that's not to say you can't make money, as you can negotiate for high percentages of the master royalties. It might be as simple as getting added to the DistroKid splits, and if the song performs well, could even end up making more money than you would have got from a major label. At all times, remember your reputation is always on the line. Stay respectful, stay professional, all while making sure you're not getting done over by these labels or independent artists.
Next, DMing on Instagram for networking. This is pretty much the best way of networking with other people in the music industry. Everyone's on Instagram. That's where you're going to be networking, whether it's sending messages or getting in front of people with your content. These are the only 4 things that we've learned really matter when it comes to the Instagram game. Most to least important. Starting with your mutuals. And this is your mutuals with whoever the person is you're trying to message. If you don't have any mutuals with them, it's almost not even worth messaging them. And the more you have with them, the more high level people you have mutual with them, the better. Just imagine their friends follow you. You're in a way better position there. Secondly, your placements. Now you can see these 2 things come even before your followers, because some people might not have a bunch of followers, but they have mutuals and placements, which means, okay, yeah, they're doing bits in the industry. So if you have really respectable placements and they're obviously on your Instagram for people to see, that's your second best bit of social proof on Instagram. Thirdly is your follower count. Of course, the more followers you have, the easier you're going to get out of requests on Instagram DMs and into the primary. Naturally, you kind of gravitate to the people with more followers when you're checking your requests. So this will also set you apart. And finally, your aesthetic, what you post on your page. Is it spamming a bunch of weird crap, or is it a clean, cool producer brand? That is the last key to it. The better these all are, the easier networking becomes on Instagram. Spend a couple years in the game and slowly grow these if you're looking for that long-term success. It's a numbers and consistency game. You need to be consistently putting up the shots and never stop sending music out. As soon as you stop sending music out, now no one's hearing it, now no one's even got the chance to use it. No more placements for you. Once you get the green light from someone, they say, sure, send me some stuff. They send you their email, their number. Don't stop sending music to them. As long as the music's good and you're not completely overloading them. If you do feel like you're overloading them, maybe you need to slow down the frequency that you send to them. But for a rule of thumb, once or twice a week, sending a couple of samples, a couple of beats to an artist, and just continuing to do it is the right move. The amount of times we've sent to someone for a couple of months and then randomly they'll go and check it, or they'll like a message, or they'll send back a beat. You just have to keep doing it. Keep throwing up the shots. Someone's going to give you a chance. And this is the same when looking for new connections. You're going to need to message quite a few people. Just don't be a bot. Don't ask for their loop email. Don't be just like every other producer. People will give you chances, and when they do, treat them as if they're going to be your next best friend and value those people that give you a shot. And if you want us to look at your Instagram and give you instant fixes, you can check the Roast and Rebuild link in the description.
Collaboration is absolutely essential in order to get more placements and just multiply the amount of people you can get your music in front of. It just opens up so many doors and opportunities that you would never be able to do purely by yourself. Over the last few years, we've got a select few producers that we just consistently collaborate with on samples, and then from that we can send those samples out to all the people that we know, all the other producers, and same for the producer that we make them with. He can go send it out to everybody that he knows, and we've just got two completely different audiences that are all hearing that same sample. Just bear in mind, don't go too crazy doing this. The more people you're collaborating with, the more people you're going to have to get to agree on a deal when it comes to landing a placement. Just an example of what we mean, we've had multiple producers sell beats using our samples. Oh, actually, they don't even sell them. They just give them away to free to these actually decent sized tier artists. They don't negotiate a good percentage for the publishing. They get no master. We've had so many cases of this. And then we come in and we try to say, no, you can't take it for free. And you can imagine how hard that is if the artist has already been told by the producer that they actually know, here's a beat for free, I'll take 10% of the publishing. That's just an example of things that's happened to us. We've learned that the hard way. Be careful who you're sending your samples to or working on samples with, as when it comes to sorting out that placement, when it comes to getting paid, these guys need to agree on the same thing that you agree on.
Once you start getting these placements, you need to be ready for these difficult negotiations, these long periods of time where you're waiting for people, waiting for responses on email. There's so many frustrating things that can knock you down and waste your time and energy. You're gonna have to go through a few placements, a few situations to learn the business, build your confidence for when working with these managers and labels. The industry is very slow, very crooked. Expect things to take a long time, many emails back and forth, even some situations where it's easier to move on and forget about it than chase down. However, whatever you do, never stop making music. That's the reason you got in this position in the first place. Make sure you still make something every day. You can't let these labels, these managers, and these negotiations take you away from doing what is needed, making the music. The next thing you make could be the next big placement you get. Pharrell always said it. He said, never stop making music.
It's music business. They're going to take advantage of you because they know you don't know no better. You find yourself in a situation when you're in a compromised contract. Don't stop making music. Make the music. Don't stop making music.
And that's what we'll continue to do. This is the real stuff, the stuff you don't hear that we've experienced over these last 3 years. That's what this channel is for. That's what we're here for. Again, if you want help from us, you can check that Roast and Rebuild in the link in the description. And you should definitely watch this video if you're wondering about the money side, the negotiations, the business side of landing placements. Cheers for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.